Today, we're going to go on a pretty incredible journey, actually. A journey into the mind, to explore a therapeutic technique you might think you know, hypnotherapy.
Okay, so let's just dive right in. I want you to be honest with yourself for a second. When I say the word hypnosis, what is the very first thing that pops into your head?
I'm willing to bet it's something kind of like this, right? You know, a performer up on a stage, maybe a swinging pocket watch, and some poor volunteer from the audience clucking like a chicken. It's a really common stereotype, and a powerful one at that.
But what if I told you that the real story, the modern, therapeutic side of this practice, has its roots not in some flashy stage show, but in some of the most respected academic halls in the entire world?
That's right. To really get what this is all about, we have to peel back that curtain of misconception and take a look at its surprisingly scholarly beginnings.
So let's set the scene. Picture this. It's July 2015. You're at Yale University. The International Associations for Analytical Psychology and Jungian Studies are holding a massive joint conference on psyche, spirit, and science. Yeah, not exactly a stage show, is it?
And just look at the kind of heavy-hitting topics that we're talking about here. I mean, we're talking about everything from trance encounters of the mind kind to neurophenomenology and the archetype of number. This is a deep, serious, intellectual exploration of the human mind, and it's the very soil that this modern therapy grew out of.
So this academic foundation, it gives us a completely different way of looking at the mind, one that's built on this really powerful central idea.
It's called Hermeneutic Hypnosis, and here's the key part. It doesn't see your mind as some kind of broken machine that needs to be fixed. No. Instead, it sees your psyche as a living, breathing text, a story that needs to be read and understood with real compassion.
And this leads us to the first big principle. You know that anxiety you might feel, or those negative patterns you just can't seem to break? In this view, they aren't just problems to be erased. They are meaningful messages from your unconscious. They're like sentences in your personal story, just asking to be read.
Okay, so the second principle is all about how we actually read that text. That trance state, it's not about losing control at all. It's actually about letting our super rigid, rational defenses just relax for a bit. And this allows a deeper kind of wisdom, what some people call somatic or body wisdom, to just naturally come to the surface. It's less about thinking your way through a problem and more about just letting the understanding bubble up.
And finally, and this is so important, this is not something that is done to you. It's a partnership, a total collaboration. The therapist and you, the client, you work together in a conversation to create new meaning. It's about combining their clinical know-how with your actual lived experience to write a new, more empowering chapter of your story, together.
Okay, so that's the philosophy, and it's pretty fascinating, right? But how does this academic theory actually work in the real world? How do you get from interpreting a text to actually rewiring your mind?
Well, let's look at how it works in practice, using the therapy platform JoyMind's three-step method as an example. So the journey kicks off with discovery, which is all about uncovering those hidden reasons behind your patterns. From there, you move into reprogramming, where you actively work to resolve those issues and literally rewire your neural pathways. And then finally, it all gets locked in with reinforcement, building a solid plan to maintain that new, positive reality.
And what's so cool is you can see the direct line here. The academic idea of awareness becomes the practical step of discovery. Reprogramming is, well, reprogramming. That one's pretty direct. And the theory of integration, making these new understandings part of you, becomes positive reframing and reinforcement. You can literally trace the idea from the university hall straight to a modern actionable method.
So the theory is compelling. The method seems clear. But does it actually work? I mean, that's the real question, right? Let's take a look at what both experts and clients are saying.
Take this, for example, from a client named Sophia. She talks about gaining this profound understanding and connecting with her inner self. And listen to this. She finally connected with the concept of self-love after struggling with it her entire life. That is the kind of deep, meaningful change we're talking about.
And then you've got this incredible validation from a leading expert, Andrew Samuels. He confirms that this whole approach is rooted in a humanistic science of the psyche, and he directly contrasts it with other models that really just rely on diagnosis and medication.
And here's another client, Greg, who found really practical, tangible relief. He was able to pinpoint his anxiety triggers and learn brand new ways to cope with them.
So for him, it wasn't just about feeling better. It was about learning the actual skills to approach his whole life in a different way.
And the Jungian psychoanalyst Mark Winborn really hammers home that core idea. He says this methodology gets to the root causes, those deep unconscious influences, instead of just putting a Band-Aid on the symptoms. It's a deeper, more lasting way to find wellness.
So when you put all of this stuff together, the academic roots, the philosophy, the practical steps, the proof, what does it actually mean for you? How should you think about this kind of therapy?
Well, it brings us right back to where we started, and it makes the distinction crystal clear. Stage hypnosis, that's for entertainment. Hypnotherapy, that's for healing and transformation. In one, you might do silly things for an audience, but in the other, you are always in control, working with a guide to achieve your own personal growth. Honestly, they could not be more different.
So what are the big takeaways here? First, this is not entertainment. It's a serious therapeutic practice, rooted in decades of deep psychological research. Second, it is not about being controlled. It's about working together to understand your own inner world. Third, the goal isn't just to change what you do, but to understand why you do it. And finally, it works by tapping into the subconscious to gently reprogram your thought patterns, which can often bring about breakthroughs way faster than talk therapy on its own.
And that really just leaves us with one last powerful question to think about. If your mind, your psyche, truly is a living story, one that you have the power to help write, what would you want the next chapter to be?